Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, let's get it. Episode 923, Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, whether you're watching the show, whether you're listening to it, whichever way you consume Talking Buffalo, you guys are the absolute best. I appreciate y'all very, very much. This is our weekly Buffalo Bills preview episode. Of course, this is a very, very big game. No matter how you try to spin it, this is a big game. This is a big game for the Buffalo Bills, and hell, this is a big game for the Kansas City Chiefs as well. So we're going to preview the game, talk about both teams. As always, I'm going to offer my three biggest keys to the Buffalo Bills securing a win, three bold predictions. And I'll tell you what, a little bit of a spoiler right off the bat here. Every week I do three bold Bills predictions, and I've had some pretty bold ones. Stick around to the end, because this one, I'm going to have a bonus fourth bold prediction. And this one, by far, is the biggest and the boldest Bills game prediction I've had all season. And I promise you, that's not no bullshit to try to suck you into staying here for the end of the show. I got a bold prediction for you that is out there. Let's just say that. And at first you're going to be like, huh? But as you think about it and I explain it, it might make a little bit of sense. So stick around for that. I'll also have a final score prediction as well. Look, folks, going back to the offseason and a lot of the summer, it felt like Brandon Beane was kind of, the expectations were this team was going to be good, but I also think he was planting seeds that in case they weren't, to not be maybe too let down. They used that word transitional year for the Buffalo Bills, and it didn't sound great, but here we are, week 11 of the NFL season, and you got the 8-2 Buffalo Bills hosting the undefeated 9-0 Kansas City Chiefs. I saw a stat that this is only like the fifth time since the NFL merger all the way back in 1970. So you're talking 54 years that at this point of the season, two teams are facing each other where both have at least 8 wins. So this is the marquee game. This very well may be the game of the year to this point, not just for the Bills, not just for the Chiefs, but the entire NFL. And I have done my best, and I truly mean this, done my best all week long to just treat this as one of 17 games. We have, as Bills fans, as Bills content creators, we've been to this rodeo before. The Bills knock off the Chiefs in the regular season, and then it becomes a different story in the playoffs. So you don't want to get too high. You don't want to get too low on this game. I understand that. That said, I am recording this late into the day on Thursday. Most of you, hopefully, are going to watch or listen to this sometime Friday morning, maybe Friday afternoon. All bets are off when it comes to emotions at that point, because this is a big game. This is a measuring stick game for both teams, and especially the Buffalo Bills. An opportunity to knock off an undefeated team, and more importantly than what the Kansas City Chiefs record is, just kind of a big statement game. You know, if there's one thing about the Bills season so far where if you want to be a neggy Nancy and you could have a little bit of validity with it, sure, the Bills are 8-2, but they have not beaten a lot of good football teams. In fact, as things stand right now, the Bills have only beat one team this season that currently, as we record this episode, has a winning record. That is the Arizona Cardinals. The other two times they faced a team with a winning record, they lost. They got smacked in Baltimore, and they lost by a field goal in Houston, a game where you could make a case either way. You could say the Bills should have won that game, and you wouldn't be wrong. You could also say Houston should have won that game by 3 scores, maybe even more than that, and I'm not sure you would have been wrong on that end either. So anyway, this is a statement game. This is a signature game for the Buffalo Bills. There's no getting around it. Recent history, like I said, the Bills have won the last 3 years in a row, or the last 3 times, I should say, that they've played the Chiefs in the regular season, but they've lost the last 3 times in the playoffs. Regular season, last year, the Bills won in Kansas City 20-17. Year before that, they won 24-20. Year before that, they actually smacked the Chiefs and they won 38-20. So the Bills have won the last 3 years in a row during the regular season. Of course, you kind of get high on your own supply a little bit. Fast forward to the playoffs. And unfortunately for the Bills, you know how that story goes. Last year, of course, Kansas City beat the Bills by a field goal, 27-24. The year before that, of course, was or 2 years ago, I should say, one of the most unbelievable games you'll ever see. Unfortunately, from a Buffalo perspective, it'll always be known as the 13 seconds game. The Bills lose that in overtime, 42-36. And then in 2020, the Bills led at the end of the first quarter, but they just didn't look like a team that was ready to go to the Super Bowl that year. Ended up losing to Kansas City 38-24, which was the first of what would be 3 Super Bowls for the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, kind of a mixed bag here when it comes to recent history. The Bills have won 3 straight during the regular season. The Chiefs have won 3 straight during the playoffs. Obviously, that counts more. But this isn't a one-side rivalry. The Bills are very capable of being the Chiefs. These last 2 losses in the playoffs have literally come down to 1 or 2 plays. Hell, back a couple of years ago, it came down to a coach not having a complete brain freeze in the last 13 seconds of a game. So the Bills certainly are capable of beating Kansas City. In the regular season, man, the Bills have done well over the last 3 games, at least in the regular season again, of containing Patrick Mahomes. 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he's been sacked 6 times in these last three regular season meetings. Conversely, Josh Allen, during the regular season, I keep going back to saying regular season, although he's played pretty well in the playoffs as well, but regular season, Josh has kind of dominated this battle between these two. 7 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and he's been sacked just 4 times in 3 games, regular season matchups against the Chiefs. For the Chiefs this season, lots of close wins. Some may even say a lot of ugly wins. Beneficiary of maybe a little bit of luck, a play or 2 that goes their way. Certainly an officiating call or 2 that has went their way. So the Kansas City Chiefs are 9-0, and critics will say, well, they haven't looked really good. Not a lot of style points in doing so. It's true. But I'll say this. The Chiefs have played a lot of good teams this season already. Like, they've played and they've beaten, obviously, Baltimore. They beat the Bengals. They beat Atlanta on the road in prime time. They beat the Chargers on the road, and the Chargers are proven to be a very formidable team this season. They've beaten the San Francisco 49ers on the road, too. That's 5 really good teams that I just ran off right there. So it's not like they're playing, the chumps around the league. They played a tough schedule, and they're still 9-0. Individually or team-wise, not great team stats. Like, they're pretty low, mid to low on a lot of team stats. Important ones, too. A lot of metrics. But there's 2, one on each side of the ball, that really tell the story about this football team and why they're so good. Offensively, for their woes, and we'll talk about Patrick Mahomes this season here in just a second, but there's been a lot of, the offense hasn't been great by any means, but they are first in the entire NFL right now in third down offense. So they stay on the field. They sustain drives. Not pretty, but they're sustainable drives. They're the best in the entire NFL right now in third down offense. That's big. It's a big stat. Conversely, on the other side of the ball, again, relatively high to mid in most stats, but one thing this team has been really exceptional at, which I know the Bills are going to try to run the football, the Chiefs have been really good at stopping the run this season. They're 4th best in the NFL in defensive rush EPA. Again, a very important stat. So they stop the run on defense, and they stay on the field and sustain drives on offense. Pretty damn good formula. As for Mahomes, like I said, statistically, this has been, by his standards anyway, a pretty awful season so far. They're 9 games in, and Pat Mahomes only has 12 touchdown passes. And trust me, I know, because I took him in my fantasy football draft. I took him in the 3rd round. Josh Allen went first. Jalen Hurts went second. And then there's like a cluster fantasy-wise of quarterbacks that were available. And I took Mahomes, and I almost had buyer's remorse instantly. And so far, I've been right. Anyway, just 12 touchdowns this season. More importantly, maybe 9 interceptions. He's been sacked 20 times too, but he's been picked off 9 times in 9 games. By his standards, a lot. I mean, an awful lot. Right now, he's on pace for the fewest passing yards, for the fewest touchdown passes, and the most interceptions he's thrown in his entire career as a starter. Can't count his rookie year where he only played a little bit. But as a full-time starter, so far through 9 games, which is a little more than halfway through the season, this is the worst statistical start to his entire career. One injury blow for the Chiefs, which benefits the Bills. Isaiah Pacheco's been out, and he's doubtful to play. He's probably very unlikely to play. In fact, Andy Reid said he's unlikely to play. That's a blow to the offense. Isaiah Pacheco is a nasty, tough, mean runner. So, again, a bit of a break for the Bills, but Kareem Hunt has been a pretty good weapon in his place for the Chiefs. He's had at least 75 yards rushing 3 of his last 5 games. He also had 65 yards receiving last week against the Denver Broncos. And running backs coming out of the backfield and doing damage in the passing game has kind of been an issue for the Bills a lot during this season. So that's definitely something to look out for on Sunday. As for Travis Kelce, which, by the way, maybe you'll know this. I don't know if you care, but about Taylor Swift being at the stadium. She was there last year, of course, for the playoffs. She got a concert going on in Toronto the night before. So I'm sure schematically it might be possible. Don't know what her schedule looks like. I don't know if she's performing on Sunday night there or not. I don't think she is. So you may or may not see Taylor Swift, regardless of whether you see her or not on TV. Her man's Travis Kelce's been heating up of late. Last 3 games, 32 catches, 254 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And again, that's just in his last 3 games. So he's been heating up big time. Last year, he was very mediocre during the regular season, and then he got loose in the playoffs. This season doesn't look like he's waiting for the playoffs to get loose. 60 catches for the year, literally 1 yard less than 500. He's at 499 right now. Of course, the Chiefs were part of several teams that added to the wide receiver position. The Bills know that with Amari Cooper. The Chiefs added DeAndre Hopkins. He's been so-so in 3 games, but he did have a nice 9-catch, 86 yards, 2 touchdown performance 2 weeks ago when Kansas City beat Tampa in overtime. So, he's moving the needle there for the offense a little bit, especially with Rice out, with Hollywood Brown out. Hopkins was, and looks like he will be, at least anyway, a good addition. So he's someone to look out for on Sunday. Of course, he's not the big star on the offense. We just talked about Mahomes. We talked about Kelce, Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, but a lot of Bills Mafia, those eyes are going to be squarely fixated on Xavier Worthy. And y'all know why. This season he's been all right. A little streaky, a little spotty, but there's some production there. 20 catches this season, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's also carried the ball 9 times for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. So he's found the end zone 5 times this year. He's been pretty effective as a rookie. I mean, he hasn't been a standout. He hasn't been elite by any means, but he's obviously dangerous. And he's going to be someone, again, that Bills Mafia is going to really have their eyes on. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see that Xavier Worthy versus Keon Coleman rookie wide receiver matchup because Keon Coleman has already been ruled out for this game. The defense on the other side of the ball, as always, is led by Chris Jones, game wrecker, one of the most valuable players. You know what? He's not even just one of the most valuable defensive linemen. He's one of the most valuable players in the NFL. He's big game Chris Jones. Like, he comes alive when the game matters the most. When the moment matters the most, that's when you get the best from Chris Jones. We saw it last year in Buffalo. on that final drive, that quarterback pressure, which prevented what would have been a go-ahead touchdown. Anyway, he's a stud still. George Kalafidis, I always say his name wrong, but I shouldn't. He had a great edge. Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil are good linebackers. Solid safety tandem with Justin Reed and Brian Cook. Trent McDuffie is one of a small handful of the best slot corners in the entire NFL. Of course, the Bills know about having an elite slot corner themselves. So again, defensively, they're very stout. They're a very stout team. They're inconsistent despite having, the all-world quarterback. It's the offense has been really inconsistent. This defense has been solid, really solid. Well, that's the thing too with the Chiefs is, and I know this is going to draw the ire of a lot of Bills fans, but I'd be remiss if I didn't point this out. They don't shoot themselves in the foot with penalties. They only have 44 penalties on the season, which is second from the bottom, second least in the NFL. They only got one fewer penalty than the Cincinnati Bengals, or one more penalty, I should say. The Bengals had the fewest in the NFL at 45 or 40, and then the Chiefs have 44. I'm sorry, the Bengals with 43. Buffalo Bills, if you were wondering, they're at 65. Again, I know it's going to piss off a lot of people because, understandably so, they're the beneficiary of an awful lot of calls. It certainly seems. I tweeted earlier in this week. I'll say it on the show now. One of the things I'm looking forward to, just as a little side note here for the game Sunday, is the first time Bills fans lose their minds in that stadium or watching it on TV, screaming at the big screen or wherever you're watching the game. The first time Juwan Taylor gets away with what should be a false start, or he's lined up like 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, or like I said, he starts moving a good second or so before the snap and he gets away with it, doesn't get flagged. Bills Mafia going to lose their damn minds over that. Anyway, I just want to take a real quick break. A couple things going on with the Bills, and then I want to get into, like I said, my 3 keys to a Bills victory, 4 bowl predictions, 3 and a bonus one, and a final score pick as well. All right, we are back here. Bills Chiefs week, man. This is our Bills Chiefs preview, bowl predictions, keys to victory. Love these shows. And as the minutes, forget the days, as the minutes go by, I'm starting to get more and more amped for this game. All right, well, what's going on with the Bills? As always, it's been this way most of the season. All eyes are kind of on the injury front. That's at the forefront yet again. I mentioned this a short time ago. Keon Coleman has already been ruled out. That sucks. At practice on Thursday, neither guy's been ruled out. We'll see what happens. By the time you listen to this on Friday, Sean McDermott will speak to WGR in the morning. He may or may not rule one or both of these guys out, but no Dalton Kincaid, no Spencer Brown at practice Wednesday or Thursday. That is obviously a very bad sign for the offense. With Dalton Kincaid, not having him could be a huge blow because I talked about how good the Chiefs defense has been this season. Well, one thing they are not good at all is defending the tight end. In fact, the Kansas City Chiefs have given up the most yards receiving to tight ends of any team in the entire NFL. So not having Dalton Kincaid, this is a very untimely injury for the tight end if he's unable to go. Maybe an opportunity to have a big game for Dawson Knox. His contract certainly warrants him being able to step up and have a big game with the situation calls for it. And without Dalton Kincaid, the situation certainly looks like it would call for it. So we'll see what happens there. And then Spencer Brown, the right tackle. Look, all of 2023 and through 10 games this season, the Buffalo Bills offensive line has been intact. There has not been one starter that has missed a single game in over a season and a half now. That appears to be in some jeopardy. Based on rumblings, a couple of reports from people who cover the team here and there, kind of feels like of the two, Spencer Brown might be a little bit closer to playing. Certainly sounds more hopeful. We're in the dark right now about Dalton Kincaid. In fact, I don't even think the media saw him during practice at all on Thursday where Brown was working with some trainers. By the way, unrelated to this game because we already know he's not playing, but Matt Milano practiced again on Thursday red non-contact jersey. Certainly seems like he's going to be on track to play for the Bills after the bye week coming up next week, which would be huge for that defense. But anyway, no Dalton Kincaid, potentially no Spencer Brown. Big blow that would be to the offense. One bit, if you're looking for some optimistic news, Amari Cooper has practiced limited basis the last couple days. He caught balls from Josh Allen at practice, which is good with the wrist injury. And he says that I don't want to, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He didn't say he's playing. I think he might have said something more than he's hopeful to play. Like he thinks he might be able to play something like that. All I know is that it's more promising for Amari Cooper. Earlier in the week, I would have said he's maybe 10 to 15% to play. Get him right, let him rest. We'll see after the bye. But with these other injuries to Kincaid and Brown and Coleman already out, they might be pushing a little bit. Cooper might be feeling better. It sounds to me like he's probably 50 to 70% right now, as things stand right now, to play on Sunday. So, again, we'll see what happens. But the injuries on the offensive side certainly are a potential blow. The defense looks pretty healthy, at least compared to, say from last week. Already know about the other injuries they already have. Carter on IR, Smoot on IR, etc. But the 11 guys who started last week for the Bills defense look like they'll all be good to go there. All right, 3 keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills here. I'm going to admit this. I don't think uncovering any, mysteries here. I think some of these are pretty obvious ones. But look, when you want to beat a great team, they're not going to beat themselves. You got to go out. You got to beat them. You got to execute. That's what it's all about. The Bills, when you play these lesser teams, and the Bills are masters of this, they let the other teams make the mistakes, and then they pounce on those opportunities. Look what the Colts did last week in that first quarter, those first couple drives, 2 interceptions, a drop touchdown went in somebody's hands. You don't see stuff like that from the Chiefs often. You got to go out and you just got to beat them. That's how it goes. So my first key for the Bills is play it out in front. Like the Bills, to me, the defense is a lot more successful when the Bills are playing with a lead. Now, 31 other teams are going to say the same thing. I get that. But this is especially true when you're in a base nickel pretty much for the entire game, like the Buffalo Bills are. You get out, you get up early, your defensive line gets to pin back their ears a little bit more. You're not getting as gashed by the running game. So it's very important for me, I think, for the Bills to not fall into like this 2-score hole early on. Because if you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs and you come out and you look sloppy, and the Bills have had a habit this season, unfortunately, it's been one of their big sore points this season, starting out slow, making adjustments, and kind of overcoming their own adversity, so to speak. I don't know that's going to work against the Chiefs. Like, you go down 2 scores in the first half, the first quarter against the Chiefs, you come out sluggish, you're very likely going to pay a big price. I go back to that Tennessee Titans game the Bills played in Orchard Park a couple of weeks ago. The Bills couldn't play worse, especially offensively. A little bit on the defensive side, too, early on. But they were only down 10-0. It felt like it could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot worse in a 10-point deficit. You play like that against the Kansas City Chiefs, you're probably going to be down 20-0. You get what I'm saying here. So getting out in front, playing with the lead, a fast start to me is really important. Number 2, I think offensively, having success on the early downs is really critical. The last thing this offense can afford, especially without Keon Coleman, and if Dalton Kincaid doesn't play, and potentially you're starting right tackle, you need to be in favorable second and third situations. If you're finding yourself in 2nd and 9, 3rd and 7, or 1st and 15 because guys on the offensive line keep, jumping off false starts or illegal motion, illegal shifts, things that the Bills have actually been really undisciplined at and terrible on the offensive side, these pre-snap penalties, cannot afford that shit this week. You can't be in 1st and 15 or 2nd and 9 or 3rd and 7. It's a recipe for disaster with Spagnuolo over there on the other side of the football. The way that dude dials up pressure, he's legendary at it. Again, no Coleman, no Kincaid. We don't even know for sure that Cooper's going to play. I shouldn't say no Kincaid. We don't know about Kincaid either, but you get what I'm saying here. Those guys, these receivers, if you're getting in a favorable situation, if you're the Chiefs, you just know Spagnuolo is going to bring the heat. Unlike the Bills, who don't blitz as much, Kansas City's going to blitz a lot. And you could bet that Spags is he's going to bet that the Bills receivers can't get open quick and Josh can't find these hot reads and that they're going to do damage, getting open quick, catching the ball and yards after catch. So you got to stay out of these second and third and longs. Early down success on offense is going to be a huge, huge key for the Bills. And then the last thing, again, Captain Obvious here, I know, but as always, you making life miserable for Patrick Mahomes with that Bills front four. And the Bills have had regular season success doing this with Patrick Mahomes, not in the playoffs. I get that, but they have had some success. This front four, not necessarily sacks either, but just disrupting the flow, disrupting the timing, not letting Mahomes roll out and get comfortable in the pocket, things like that. Again, a guy who is an all-world player, but he's also been very mistake-prone this year, and they've been some pretty big ones too. Disrupting Patrick Mahomes is critical. I don't see a lot of blitzing with the Bills because you got guys on that offense like Kelsey and DeAndre Hopkins and Xavier Worthy, speedsters, Juju Schuster. He can still do some things, man. They got guys out there that can make you pay. So I think the Bills are going to play, I should say, a lot of base defense, and they're going to rely on Groot to continue to play well. They're going to rely on Von Miller, who had, he didn't have a sack last week, but he had 3 pressures. He played really well. They're going to rely on Von Miller and A.J. Epinesa, who had a really athletic interception, I believe it was last year or it was 2 years ago, against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Ed Oliver's got to come to play. These guys got to generate good pressure. Again, Mahomes has been sacked 6 times the last 3 times the Bills have played them in the regular season versus just 3 in the playoffs. But even if you're not necessarily getting the sacks, man, you got to make life hard for Mahomes, and you're going to give up some plays to the Chiefs offense. You're going to give up some yards. You're going to give up some points. But kind of like the Colts game last week. And, having 4 turnovers, that might be a little bit, overly optimistic. But if you can generate 2, you can force Mahomes into a terrible interception, and you can get Hunt to put the ball on the ground or something like that once. You're looking at 2 turnovers with this defense. It'll go a long way towards the Bills winning. But I just don't see Bobby Babbage dialing up a lot of 5, 6, especially 7-man rushes against Pat Mahomes like they did last week against Flacco. That interception that Austin Johnson had, that was a 7-man blitz that the Bills had. I don't see you doing that against Mahomes because they'll find a way to make you pay big time if you do that. So to me, those are the 3 biggest Bills keys. Again, like I said, you want to get out in front. You want to play with the lead. So the defense, you can kind of take that running game away at least a little bit anyway. You need to have early down success on offense, and you need to make life miserable for Mahomes without having to blitz much, if at all. By the way, bonus matchup, I really want to see him and talk about either of these guys, but Khalil Shakir versus Trent McDuffie is just, as a fan, that should be a lot of fun to watch. Very much looking forward to seeing that. McDuffie is a great slot corner, and obviously we know what Khalil Shakir is. All right, folks, 3 bold predictions, but again, a bonus 4th one. I do this every week. They're fun. I was cold early on, then I got a big hot streak. 3 straight weeks I nailed an anytime touchdown. And they were more obscure players too. It wasn't Josh Allen throwing for a touchdown, and I'm bold about saying that. There's nothing bold about saying, Greg Rizzo's going to get a sack. I feel like these are relatively bold-ish, at least predictions anyway. All right, my first one. I think the Bills passing game with Coleman down, maybe no Kincaid. I don't know how effective Dawson Knox could be. Cooper might play, but not at 100%. Spencer Brown, the offensive line pass blocking might be a little bit more of an issue. I think you're going to see more Josh Allen throwing the ball to the running backs in this game. So I'm predicting 8 catches minimum from the Bills running backs. And that's James Cook. That's Ty Johnson. That's Ray Davis. Minimum 8 catches out of the backfield for James Cook. I can see for the Bills running backs. I'm sorry. I had James Cook on my mind because I could see this kind of game being where, Cook's struggling to find some sliding. Again, the Chiefs are really good at stopping the run, but you really want to get him involved. He might be, 50, 60 yards, maybe only 3.3 yards per carry, something like that. But you find a way to get him out of the backfield, isolate him, especially beating blitzes, things like that. I could see him having 4 or 5 catches by himself, but I'm going 8 catches, running backs minimum. I don't know how many carries he's going to get, but my second bold prediction is I'm calling for a Ray Davis rushing touchdown. I see it. I see the Bills getting into the red zone. Maybe it's inside, the 5-yard line, 6-yard line. Maybe it's far out from 10, 11 yards. But I could just see a run from Ray Davis, a mean guy run, where he breaks a tackle and he just storms into the end zone. It just, it's a field thing, man. I feel it in my bones. A Ray Davis rushing touchdown. Third one, which normally would be my last one, Terrell Bernard is going to come to play. Terrell Bernard is going to be involved in a turnover, an interception, a fumble recovery. And you know what? If he forces a fumble, I'm going to count that as well. So either he forces one, he picks up one, or he gets an interception. But I could see a Terrell Bernard play. He forces a turnover, runs to the end zone. Again, this is stuff, bold predictions, I go by feel. And I can just see the rest of the defense running down with him and celebrating in the end zone. Maybe he'll play with a little bit more of a pep in his step too, because he knows his boy, Matt Milano, should be coming back for that Frisco game in a couple weeks. So those are my 3 bold predictions. But like I told you, I promise you, I got a bold one, and here it is. I think, no inside information, but I don't think Dalton Kincaid is going to play in this game. I think the Bills are going to play it safe with him. And I think, the bye after this, he comes back hopefully for Frisco. So, no Dalton Kincaid. I think the Bills elevate someone from their practice squad to make up for that. I think that person, Zach Davidson. I think Zach Davidson is going to be active for this game. Third tight end, because you're going to have Morris, Knox. However, if you're going to activate him, I think they're going to try to make him part of the passing game. You know what Quentin Morris is. Anyway, there's going to come a situation, I don't know when, but 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 yards or even longer, who knows? Zach Davidson, folks, is going to get elevated on Saturday or Sunday morning, whatever it may be, Saturday, 4 o'clock. He's going to play on Sunday. And folks, Zach Davidson is going to score a touchdown for the Bills. I heard that FanDuel doesn't even have that as a prop bet or something right now because he's not even on the roster. But if Zach Davidson gets elevated from the practice squad on Saturday, go take $5, $10, something you can easily afford to lose, because I want you being pissed at me saying, yo, you idiot, I dropped $100. I just dropped $500 betting because of some stupid thing you said. That might be pushing a little bit. But go take $10 and go bet with Vegas that Zach Davidson scores a touchdown, assuming he's going to be active. And I predict that he's going to be. So there you go. Find me another podcast that has a bold prediction that Zach Davidson is going to score a touchdown for the Bills this week. All right, let's end this with the prediction. Look, I don't think the Bills, and I'm being honest with you folks here, I don't think the Bills are necessarily the better football team. In fact, right now, I don't think they're the better football team. But I do think there's a few key factors here in place. They're home. That is huge, obviously, of course. Playing in Orchard Park is a lot different than playing at Arrowhead Stadium, because, a lot of these road games we've seen this year, Indy, Seattle, those are definitely 2 to come to mind. Those were essentially Bills Mafia takeovers. We see it almost every time the Bills play in Miami. The crowd's probably 30 to 35% Bills fans on the road. Well, Bills Mafia is amazing. And so is the Chiefs fans. I don't know what they call their fans. Who gives a shit? But they're good. They travel well. They, you don't go to Arrowhead Stadium and take over that stadium. That's what I'm getting at here. These teams are alike. Like when the Bills play at Kansas City, there's no Bill. There'll be a bunch of Bills fans there, but it's not a Bills Mafia takeover. Conversely, the Bills defend their home turf. You're not going to see 15 to 20,000 Kansas City Chiefs fans invading Highmark Stadium either on Sunday. So I do think home field is a big, big deal when two good teams play like that. So you got that. And I also feel like, simply put, no scientific stuff here. Just, or maybe it is, I guess, now that I'm saying it. Law of averages? I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs are due right now. They're 9-0. There's a reason why teams don't go undefeated. Somewhere along the way, you make a costly mistake, something happens, and at some point you lose. I look at the Chiefs right now and I'm like, this ain't a 17-0 football team. But if they beat the Bills, they might end up being a 17-0 football team. Like, they flirted with danger a lot this year. I mean, go no further than last year or last week. They're up 2 points against Denver, and Denver's kicking a 35-yard field goal to win the game. A 35-yard field goal, and he gets blocked. The Chiefs have been benefactors of mistakes by other teams, a couple lucky bounces, and a couple lucky officiating calls. Sooner or later, it's got to even out to some extent, or at least something's got to go their way. And I feel like this could be the week. And then lastly, they could downplay it all they want. We could downplay it all we want. But this is a big game for the Bills. This is a big, big game for the Buffalo Bills. They desperately want to win this football game. They want to validate themselves. They want to feel good going into the bye, knowing that after the bye, they're almost certainly getting their all-pro linebacker, Matt Milano, back. Hopefully they're getting Keon Coleman back. Considering the fact that he hasn't been in IR, you got to think that that's something that the Bills are highly hopeful for, and that you're getting ready to play your best football with your team out there. Now, I will say one thing about the Chiefs. They're undefeated for a reason, because they're great, and Pat Mahomes is pretty much unbeatable when he's the underdog, which is not often. So I certainly wouldn't bet the house on this game, but prediction time's going to be, I got the Bills winning this game. Buffalo Bills 27, Kansas City Chiefs 23. I think it's going to be a very good competitive game. No surprise here. That comes down to the last 5, maybe even the last 2 minutes of the football game. How about with Terrell Bernard sealing the game with some kind of turnover? How sweet would that be? To conclude, though, look, like I said, I have seen this rodeo before. You've seen this rodeo before. If the Bills win, I'll probably be excited in the moment. I do a live post-game show, Joe from Queens, Sunday night, by the way, around 9 p.m. We're going to be going live. But I'm going to force myself to not read too much into these October, November meetings. That said, having the confidence to beat this team, with a bunch of new players, that leadership core from last year, a lot of it is gone. So it would be a big feather in the cap for the Bills to win this game from a confidence standpoint. I'm just not going to get too high if the Bills do. Conversely, if the Bills lose this game, I'm not going to get too low. I'll find a way real quick to say, well, Keon Coleman was a factor not playing. Matt Milano not out there is a factor not playing. Amari Cooper at less than 100% if he plays at all. Kincaid, Spencer Brown, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get what I'm saying. I'm not going to get too high. I'm not going to get too low. I say that now. And when the Bills win 27-23, I'm going to be really, really high covering this game on the post game Sunday night. Anyway, that's going to do it for this show. Again, thank you very much for watching and for listening. This is it, man. This is the game. This is the game that we've all Bills fans, all content creators, quite frankly, all media, and certainly the players have been looking forward to all season long. Again, one more time, Sunday, 9 p.m., win or lose, live post-game show. Talk to you guys then.